Hello, Collateral Gaming listeners. Chazzle Dazzle here from the Trial by Error Variety Show podcast. I just wanted to take a few seconds to invite you guys over to what we do. No, it's not video games, but we do invite really awesome and unique bands from all over the world. We dig deep into their souls and find really cool stories to tell you, and there's tons of music every week, so subscribe to us wherever you subscribe to your podcast. We look forward to having you.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
I'm Zachary Gio.
This is Collateral Gaming. Welcome to Collateral Gaming, the only video game podcast that matters, where we focus on good games, bad games, and everything else in between in the world of gaming. We are podcasting straight from somewhere in South Texas and
Somewhere in South Georgia.
and yes, my friends, we are a 420 friendly podcast. So whatever you have, poke it if you've got it.
Drinking from a straw, not smoking. I'm not a heathen. I'm just kidding. How's it going, bud? It's been a while since we got together and chatted about some video games. I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Dude, hell yeah. I'm super looking forward to this. Well, yeah, it's been a while since we've had a regular episode. I mean, the last numbered episode we actually did was Last of Us Part 2, and then we had our anniversary special and then our holiday special, but now we're back in. It's a new year, and this is what was supposed to be our first official episode of the new year if we weren't so late on the holiday special.
Well, I mean, honestly, I think everybody's going to give us the benefit of the doubt, since I can't speak English apparently. But with the craziness that was 2020 and now the craziness that's 2021. Because we thought we were going to get away from it, but no, America's still fine dining and breathing, but that's all they know. So nothing's really getting better right now. But it is what it is, and we're going to make the best of it. We're going to talk about video games. We're going to play video games. We're going to have a good time.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? 2020 was actually a great year for gaming, at least. I mean, we had a lot of great games that came out last year. Yes. This game that we're going to talk about, Ghost of Tsushima, Assassin's Creed. We had Age of Calamity came out. We had Last of Us Part 2. We had
Mario 3D All-Stars.
Mario 3D All-Stars. Yeah, I mean, for Cyberpunk 2077 for what it's worth.
Joke.
Not Call of Duty.
It's so bad, dude. I mean, it'll be better on February 4th when they finally drop ranked play. I mean, I guess that's good to talk about a little bit because they're finally putting competitive in a game after not having competitive in the game for almost 2 years. I'm not about to go off on a tangent. I'm just not having fun with that game right now, and you guys know how much I love Call of Duty. So it hurts my heart to literally cringe every time I see the multiplayer menu.
Hey, Apex went cross-platform last year. That was a big deal. So that's pretty cool.
It's not fun getting destroyed by PC players, but eventually I will become a PC player, so I can't talk too much shit.
Yeah, and now you can destroy the mobile players, so there you go.
Wait, is there Apex Mobile?
Is there? I don't know.
I'm looking that up right now, dude. Oh, man.
I mean, I guess I just assumed there was because, there's a Fortnite mobile. Neither one of those sounds like a good game to play on mobile. I mean, I guess it's cool to have it, like if you're just ootin' a boot and, you really, really want to play, but I just can't see that being any good.
No, the only thing they have is Apex Helper, which is basically like a strategy guide. It allows you to check your stats for both your characters and your weapons. But Apex is a lot of fun. I'm sure we can dive into that at some point. We were supposed to, like we said a couple episodes ago, we said we were supposed to talk about it with another group, but we ended up just shooting the shit for 3 hours. And that was a fun time. But
yeah.
No, Apex is a lot of fun. It's really hard, and it's definitely not your typical battle royale, even though it kind of is. But if you've played it, then you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. Hold on.
Dab. Bless you, my friend.
Yeah, it's allergy season.
Duck season.
Man. And see if I'm smart, I'm going to edit out the sneeze. So you're going to say bless you, and they're going to be like, what the hell? Where did that come from?
I'm bringing Jesus into it.
For those of you listening, I just sneezed. That's what happened. I edited it out so you didn't have to listen to it. But yeah, I mean, we're here to talk about the new year. I actually kind of have a positive take on this year. I think, yes, some shit happened, but I think some shit happened that ultimately needed to happen. I'll put it that way.
Just to kind of solidify things that are going on. It just there were a lot of skeptical people, and after what happened, not so much anymore.
Yeah.
There's a lot more conclusive evidence that kind of gives us the proof that we need. The proof is now in the pudding.
Exactly. I mean, I've been saying this for the last 4 years, and I think some people are finally starting to, eyes open, like, okay, yeah, no, that's, yeah. Anyway, we're not going to get political. We're not going to get into it.
Yeah, we're not going to give details, but we're definitely talking about Metroid Prime 4 and how it needs to come out. No, I'm just kidding.
But we're definitely going to talk about some game politics.
Yes.
Or economics, I should say, because, I mean, this has been a trending thing. We got to talk about it, right? So GameStop, right? And for those of you who are not aware, I'll try to explain the situation as easily as I can, because and this was explained to me this way. So, by all means, if I get anything wrong, you economists listening can correct me. But from what I understand is we had some people that had were predicting that the GameStop stock would go down. Some Wall Street guys, some Wall Street bros, some hedge fund managers, right, were predicting that the GameStop stock was going to go down, and they were kind of bragging about it. They're like, yeah, this is going to go down and we're going to short it. And essentially what that means to short sell is to borrow a stock from someone else, or borrow a share, but to borrow a share from someone with the intent of selling it at its current market value and then buying it back once the value goes down. And then you can return back what you borrowed. And essentially you made a profit because you sold it for higher than what you bought it back for. And as far as the other person is concerned, they have their share back. Well, what some Redditors did, what some gamers did, and never underestimate gamers. I mean, we've known for years that GameStop does not buy back games at a reasonable value, so we understood already. That but GameStop always had our backs, and we had GameStop's back in the end. But what they decided to do was buy a bunch of GameStop shares, and doing so raising the value of GameStop up to essentially
it went up 480%. 480%.
Yeah. So they fucked those billionaires. They fucked those hedge fund managers, because these guys, they still owe those shares that they borrowed. So they're obligated to buy back those shares at multiples of the cost.
Oh yeah, there was one dude that invested like $55,000 into the GameStop stocks after all the information was leaked, and then once it went up in price, he he profited with like $11 million, dude. It was it's crazy, and it was a meme. Memes have so much power. Oh my god.
Speaking of memes, I am in love with the Bernie meme, and I've been sharing any and every Bernie meme that has to do with video games, and I've actually seen some mods that people have done with the Bernie, mittens meme.
there was one that I saw where when Link walks into, I love Breath of the Wild, so I'll mention it in every episode no matter what we talk about. But there was one where a modder put Bernie sitting in a chair in the middle of the sanctum at the top of Hyrule Castle. Like Link walks into the sanctum and Bernie's just sitting in the chair in the middle of the floor. I lost my shit, dude. That was great. So
I saw some horror games like Resident Evil 7 and shit. It's just brilliant. I love it. I'm here for it. I'm definitely a Bernie bro, so that was really nice to see. He's just such a, whether you agree with his politics or not, he's such a wholesome and genuine person. You can't help but love him.
He really is. He's everybody's grandfather.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
What do you have to add to Collateral Gaming News this episode?
since we're diving into the world of potential things and new things, and I mean, this isn't. I will go ahead and preface this by saying that this is not confirmed at all. Nintendo has not shared anything. IGL Numa has not confirmed this, but there have been whispers and rumors of a possible remake of Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo Switch. And I'm not talking about another port or a 3D remake like they did with the 3DS, where they just kind of enhanced the graphics again. I'm talking a full-fledged remastering of the game.
Oh shit!
And I like, imagine. Okay, so everybody has seen the Unreal Engine make of Ocarina of Time.
Yep.
Imagine that, but like times 2 or 3.
Yeah, like what if they like literally took the entire game and just rebuilt it from the ground up? Like Ocarina of Time 3D was, they retextured a lot of it. And some of the models, I think like Link's model, they actually redid. But most of the assets were still intact, you know? They just made it look a lot prettier. But imagine if you took it and you just rebuilt every model from the ground up again. That would be brilliant.
Oh yeah, dude, and like there's some samples of music, dude.
Yeah.
Like the Castletown theme, fully orchestrated. It's beautiful. And that's what we need.
We need it, yeah. Look what they did with like Final Fantasy VII remake or the recent Resident Evil 3 remake, you know?
Oh yeah.
Full-on actual remakes. That would be badass. I am down for that.
I mean,
and Ocarina of Time is definitely the Zelda game that deserves it the most.
100%. It's literally the game that set the foundation for adventure games today. Introducing Z-targeting, introducing like semi-open world adventures, scaling with side quests, and just so much to do. And all from a simple little third-person perspective. And it's spectacular what they've done with it, honestly. And it's come so far in just 23 years. It's ridiculous. And now we're getting hints about Breath of the Wild 2. We've got a trailer telling us that it's in development. It looks spectacular.
You could, in fact, say that it is fantastic.
You're fired. Please pack up your things and leave them on my office, which I don't have an office, but we'll figure something out. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. Like, if they remastered, I'm currently working on Ocarina of Time 3D for the 3DS. I managed to get my hands on both Majora's Mask 3D and Ocarina of Time 3D for like $20, and that was a steal. So I'm having a really good time. I'm on a Zelda high right now. I've been playing Age of Calamity, Link's Awakening for the Switch, Breath of the Wild, always, I'll never stop. And I actually started playing the Oracle games again. You just drank something. That face you made was beautiful.
I just swigged straight vodka.
Dude, now that I think about it, I went over to a friend's house last night to watch that new Christopher Nolan movie, Tenet. Highly recommend. Collateral Cinema.
Oh, is it good?
Dude, it's spectacular. You talk about a mind fuck. It's crazy.
I need to watch that.
It's so good. But
I love me some Nolan.
oh yeah, dude. Interstellar is one of the best movies of all time. But
Interstellar, Inception, and lest we forget the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yes, sir. Why so serious? Oh man. All right. Well, we have a lot to talk about in this upcoming conversation with one of the most beautiful and one of the coolest games that came out last year. So let's dive in.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to talk about the player's choice for Game of the Year, which was Ghost of Tsushima. And I honestly thought this was the game that was going to win. By no means do I think that Last of Us Part 2 didn't deserve it, because I think those games both deserved it.
Yes, sir.
But I want to honestly say I think this was my favorite game of 2020, just overall. Because, I mean, it is just amazing. And it's amazing in different ways from Last of Us, because Last of Us is a linear story, and it is a fantastic story. Ghost of Tsushima is, I think, in my opinion, like the pinnacle of, narrative-driven open world gaming. And it's just an awesome way to end the PS4 era, which of course Sucker Punch Productions originally kicked off with infamous Second Son, which is a game that we talked about earlier in the Collateral Gaming Careers. The second episode we ever did, our quote-unquote inaugural episode, or episode 1, not including, episode 0, which was our pilot on Fable 3. So if you wanted to hear our thoughts about that, Dakota and I talked about infamous Second Son. That's, again, it's episode 1. And it's the second episode we produced. Well, no, the second one we ever did was the Bandersnatch episode, but it doesn't really count. Anyway, we had a lot to talk about. We were still kind of fresh in the game, so we hadn't really found our footing in the podcast world. So try to judge with a lighter standard, but we had a blast with it. It's one of those games that Dakota and I had both played before, and we're really, really impressed with. I mean, do you have any history with the Infamous series?
Actually, no, I never played them. I didn't get a PS4 until 2017. So I actually got a PS4 shortly after I got Breath of the Wild for the Switch. I managed to cop my PS4 in like June 2017, and the first game that I bought for it was Overwatch. So, yeah, that's a whole other conversation. But no, I never played the Infamous games.
In Infamous 1 and Infamous 2, I had never really played. I started playing some of Infamous 1 actually in preparation for this episode to kind of get a feel for Sucker Punch's style. But it was one of their more one of their more recent entries that was definitely more grounded than their previous works. Of course, Sucker Punch Productions is also well known for the Sly Cooper series, which is a series I also got to get a little bit of insight with, as I played the very first game, Sly Cooper and the Thieves Raccoonus, recently. Again, in preparation for this episode, I wanted something to talk about, and I could definitely see the elements that made it into Ghost of Tsushima in both of these franchises, but they're also very different. And Sucker Punch has shown that they can have several different styles, but what they're mostly known for are character action games. And Sly Cooper is a series of games that focused a lot on stealth and platforming, and is one of the very first games that really emphasized stealth, in that most enemies could kill you in one hit. So you had to find ways of sneaking around enemies and killing them before they killed you. Mm-hmm. So that, but a very, very different style. This was a very cartoony, anthropomorphic animals. Think like Star Fox, but not in space. Yeah. Just thieves and stealth, and you kind of got Sly Cooper, but also no spaceships. I mean, it's just platforming. But in regards to the anthropomorphic animal character world, right?
Yeah.
So, and I had a lot of fun with it. The characters were endearing. The gameplay was fun, and I'd like to play some more. But Infamous is a series that I mostly have experience with Second Son, which was the entry for the PS4. And Second Son was a game where they took some of the elements of the first two games, which featured Cole, whose superpower was electricity, but you had Delson, who was now an empath who could have multiple powers. And so it was just a really robust system. And I remember enjoying the visuals in that game. I mean, the colors were spectacular. The movement was fluid. And then that's something that's very common, I think, that I've seen in all three games, is just this kind of fluid action system, where the character's movement and the way that they jump and interact with the world is very seamless, and it works. And I don't know how else to describe it other than the way that you play, but when you control characters like Sly or Cole or Delson or Jin Sakai, you do get this feeling where we get a lot of the parkour action that you see in the Infamous series and you see in Ghost of Tsushima found its roots in the platforming systems in Sly Cooper.
Yeah, 100%. The main thing to go about with these types of games, and this is something I've been thinking about ever since I started playing games as a kid, there is just something about certain video games that allows for complete and total player immersion. And when you're playing a game, if what you're doing as your character flows with the NPCs, the world, the missions, the stories, the side quests, whatever you're doing, if there's a connectivity between the two that flows, then that makes for almost a perfect game. Take Red Dead Redemption 2, for example. This wasn't made by Sucker Punch Productions. It was made by... Oh, man, me laughing. I already forgot. Rockstar Games made this game, and literally everything you do is connected. You can choose whether or not you want to be an outlaw. You can choose whether or not you want to be a good guy. That's not the point here. What I'm saying is, whatever you're doing, it feels like it's actually happening. It feels like you're creating a narrative throughout your actions in the game. And honestly, Ghost of Tsushima does that beautifully, because the NPCs don't feel like NPCs. They feel like actual characters within the game. When you're facing enemies, whether you're doing a face-off or you're trying to be completely stealthy and take them out, it feels as though you are taking part in an actual siege on Tsushima. You are
Yes.
the sole savior of this island that is being overrun by Mongols, and it's intense. And when I first started this game, Ash, I played it on almost the realistic difficulty, but I would be taken out in like two sword strikes, basically. And it was really hard.
Yeah.
Like, I had to tone the difficulty down. And I love that, because there's a lot of video games that have come out in the past and that still come out today that kind of baby the player, kind of sugarcoat things for them and allow you. And there's a way in Ghost of Tsushima you can play on the easiest difficulty just to enjoy the story. But when you play on a more difficult, when you play on a higher difficulty, that's what I'm getting at, you feel more connected and you feel more immersed into what you're doing. And honestly, it makes the $60 that you've spent on the game feel worth it, because you are literally plunging yourself into an adventure. You're literally giving yourself a chance to break from reality. And that's why connectivity between the main character to everything else that's going on in the game is so important. It's so important. And Ash and I are huge fans of the Zelda series, but one thing that a lot of the Zelda games lack is connectivity. While you can feel immersed, you hit a certain point in the game and Link is just OP. You literally destroy everything in your wake. And a lot of the Zelda games, once you get to a certain point, it stops being a challenge. And throughout Ghost of Tsushima, I just started Act 3. Ash and I were talking about this prior to the start of this episode. It is hard no matter what you do, no matter how many skills you unlock, no matter how much of the side content you've done, it is still difficult.
You can still die in a hit or two. Yeah.
Yes, that doesn't change. It doesn't change. While you can upgrade your armor, you can upgrade your sword, your bow, whatever it is you're doing, you can help increase your skills and stealth, and you can add more moves in combat, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that if you get hit twice, you're done.
Yeah.
But that's on a higher difficulty. So I'm going to stop ranting. I'm going to let you go back to it. But when it comes to Ghost of Tsushima, the reason why I feel like it was a contender for Game of the Year, and it should have been, because it was the player's choice, honestly. And I love Last of Us 2. It was amazing. But I wouldn't have been upset if Ghost of Tsushima had taken it, because there's not really many games as immersive and as connected as this one.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so beautiful. The setting, the world is absolutely gorgeous. And that... I haven't played the Infamous games, but I have watched I have watched gameplay. I've watched gameplay of the Sly Cooper games, and you said it. You hit the nail on the head. They go after colors. They go after gameplay. They go after flow, and that's one thing that Sucker Punch does very well, is making it feel like this big, vast, beautiful world. And when you take an element of realism, which they did with Tsushima, and make it look like this big, open island that you can explore, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's absolutely beautiful, and it's not something you take for granted, and that's why $60 at the end of the day doesn't seem like too much to spend on the game.
Oh God, no, this game is gorgeous. And we're going to talk about the graphics, because man, this game is just so immersive. I love the world, but I like what you said about comparing it with Red Dead Redemption. And that's a game that this gets compared to a lot, because whereas Red Dead Redemption was like the definitive Western game, it is the cowboy game. And it is the grounded experience of a cowboy, and you really feel like a cowboy. Ghost of Tsushima is now being seen as that grounded samurai game, the feudal Japan game of today. And obviously there's other games that we can talk about and compare and contrast with, like Sekiro or Nioh. But when it comes down to it, what I like about Tsushima is just how well it fits into the historical context. I mean, the amount of love and attention to detail that was put into this game by Western developers. And let me just go out by saying, we're going to kind of jump forward here. This is more of a reception point, but this game was well received by a Japanese audience, by Famitsu.
Oh yeah.
Okay. This game won, what is it?
I can look it up really quick.
Did they give it a perfect score?
Let me see. Which...
There was something that they did. It was Famitsu and
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, a perfect
Yep.
score. And it is only the third time a Western game has gotten a perfect score.
Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima.
So
is,
that's saying
Ghost of
something.
Tsushima is first ever American winner of Famitsu Game of the Year award. First ever.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And that's saying something because this is a game that really could have been criticized. It could have gone wrong if the Japanese audience had said, no, this is nothing like Japan. But this American studio managed to develop a game that very much feels like Japan, and all the weeaboos are gonna catch on to that, and all the fans of old Kurosawa films, which this game definitely takes inspiration from, are gonna recognize that. And I also like, and you had mentioned, of course, the difficulty setting is there is a setting in this mode that was or a difficulty setting that was released, and this was actually a patch later on whenever New Game Plus was introduced, and I believe close to when Legends ended up being introduced, which we'll talk about that as well. But the lethal mode makes it to where any single sword strike can kill you, but also any single sword strike from you can kill enemies, like actual swordplay. So it's actually making an entirely new way of playing the game that completely transforms. And I'm excited about starting my New Game Plus playthrough in lethal mode, which I am almost 100% complete through the story. Like, I've done everything through the story. I'm just at this point, I'm just doing collectibles. But once I finish that, I would love to start New Game Plus, and I'm going to turn on the lethal setting and really just immerse myself. But going back to, I guess, the development history here is, I remember a while back, and we talked about this in our infamous Second Son review. Sucker Punch was talking about how where they could go in the future with this, with the series, with the Infamous series at least, is that it's a series where they could take conduits, who are the superpowered characters in that franchise, in any historical period. And for some reason, feudal Japan just came to my mind, right? And we've talked about this before in other episodes. I know how Ghost of Tsushima is the Assassin's Creed game in feudal Japan that everyone wanted, and it really is. It really does feel like that in a lot of ways. When you look at the combat, when you look at the stealth gameplay, it very much feels like what that feudal Japan Assassin's Creed was supposed to feel like, just without the Assassin's Creed eccentricities like the modern world storyline and whatnot. But I'm going off on my own tangents here.
Dude, do it. Go off on like as many sine, cosines, and tangents as you want.
Well, that's what Ghost of Tsushima is like. When you get in the game and there's just so many different things to do in the world, and it's easy to get sidetracked and just fall into these other activities and then just go right back to where you were at. And we'll talk about the gameplay in particular in a second. But what I wanted to address was that after developing Infamous First Light, which was the standalone DLC for Infamous Second Son, Sucker Punch wanted to produce a game where... let me look at my notes here. This is they wanted to develop an open world project where players' choices impacted gameplay. And as far as choices impacting gameplay here, I'm not sure. Most of the story is kind of rigged, but I definitely see what they mean and where they were going with this, because you can take a situation and you can play at it any way that you want. You can come at it through the honorable samurai way, or you can embrace the role of the ghost and take down enemies by stealth. And a good player should probably do a little bit of both. But for me, I've always been kind of a stealth guy, but I also did enjoy the standoffs and the, come send your finest warrior and, hitting them down in one slash.
Me.
Just that classic samurai style. And you can do that. This game really feels, that old trope where the samurai like takes the sword out, kills the enemy in one swipe and puts it back.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, dude, they hit the nail on the head with that. It's beautiful.
You can't make every combat situation like that, obviously. The game would be too easy, but they managed to take that feeling and put it into the combat.
You can upgrade it to where you can chain them, though. Up to 3 times, isn't it? Where you can kill up to...
Yeah, the standoffs, you can go up to 5.
Oh!
Because with the Sakai clan armor, you can get up to 2 extra... by upgrading it all the way, you can get up to 2 extra standoff chains. And then there's also 2 skills that you can unlock that give you 2 standoff chains. So you can kill up to 5 enemies, which is almost enough to fill up your ghost dance meter.
That, and it's almost enough to kill some camps entire camps with just a face-off.
Oh yeah, you can kill out, those wandering groups of Mongols that you come across in the open world sometimes. A single standoff plus ghost combo, or just a single standoff combo if you've got the Sakai clan armor on, can finish those off.
Dude, I'm telling you what, the first time I got into a face-off, it's that first cutscene where you're crossing the bridge for the first time trying to access Castle Shimura. I think that's the name of it. Or is it when you're trying to go in?
Castle Kaneda is the first one.
Castle Kaneda, that's right. When you're trying to break out your uncle the first time. And this is at the very beginning of the game. And that first face-off on the bridge happens. I was like, oh, dude, shit's about to go down. This is insane. Oh my gosh. Of course, the effect of it kind of wears off the further into the game you get. But that first standoff is just glorious. And when you time it perfectly, you kind of hold your hand through it a little bit with the first one. But that when you draw your blade and just slice through it, it's so satisfying, bro. Oh my gosh.
We want to talk about satisfying? Slaughtering Mongol leaders. End of Act, or I think maybe midway through Act 2, you unlock the Ghost Dance, which you can do by either killing enough enemies in a row without taking damage, or by slaughtering Mongol leaders. So you can assassinate most enemies in this game. Obviously, that's one of the core concepts, and you can even unlock chain assassinations. But Mongol leaders are different. They're kind of like those difficult enemies in the action RPG style Assassin's Creed games that you can't go down in one hit. Until, of course, you unlock the Slaughter. And he comes up straight up behind them, and he cuts off their head, and it terrifies the other enemies around them. They're straight up freaked out.
Oh, yeah.
Jin. When we fight, we face our enemy head on. And when we take their life, we look them in the eye with courage and respect. This is what makes us samurai. There must be thousands of them. We will face death and defend our home.
We do what we must, Lord Sakai. That is why you and I are both survivors.
I am samurai.
No, you are more than that. You are the ghost. Convince your people to join me, and I will give them peace.
We will never serve you. I've never seen a samurai fight like that. It was nothing.
You're more than a samurai. He is a vengeful spirit, back from the grave to slaughter the Mongols.
If you continue down this path, you will be no better than the Mongols.
I trained you to fight with honor.
Honor died on the beach. The Khan deserves to suffer. I am samurai. But I will sacrifice everything for my home.
going back to assassinations for a second, can we talk about Jin's character development in this game?
Yes.
And just how he goes from being this traditional blood by blood samurai to bending the rules a little bit to get what needs to be done. Because at the very beginning of the game, he does not want to assassinate.
Right.
He wants to face his enemies head on and take their lives while they're looking at him. He has to kind of break his own honor a little bit to kind of become a better warrior. And it kind of encompasses the whole theme of the game of how Jin has to make sacrifices, not just for himself, but for those around him in order to save Tsushima. And I love that. Like, the characters grow in games, but they hardly ever, have personal sacrifices. And that's one thing I like about this, because you can imagine, you can't really feel what Jin's feeling, but if Jin was a real person, you could imagine the anguish and sadness that he felt by just taking a man's life without him even knowing he was there in the first place.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's interesting. That isn't, that's really what's core to this story here is Jin's inner conflict. So Jin Sakai is a traditional samurai. He was raised by Lord Shimura, who is the Jito, basically kind of a local leader underneath the shogun. If you know anything about the hierarchical structure of feudal Japan, which I know very little of, even as a huge weeb, a lot of this historical stuff is kind of lost on me, but I understand the basics, right? And so you've got the shogun, and then underneath you've got the Jito, and he's basically the leader of Tsushima Island. Jin is his nephew, and also the boy that he basically raised as his own son. And that comes throughout the game, is in fact he plans to formally adopt him at one point. But what Jin learns is that his code of honor that the samurai had to follow is going to get them killed. The Mongols are exploiting the samurai's honor. They've studied them. And this is based on an actual real historical context, by the way. This is based on the real first Mongol invasion of Japan, which started on Tsushima Island. The character of Khotun Khan is actually fictional, he, being the cousin of Kublai, but grandson of Genghis. But the invasion itself is not. Just some of the characters, I think, probably their names are changed or their roles. But anyway, so Jin basically realizes, like you said, that he has to bend the rules a little bit just for this Mongol invasion. And over time, he becomes known as the Ghost of Tsushima. People see the way he fights, and they're afraid of him, but they also see him as the protector of the island. Mm-hmm. And over the course of the game, he begins to slowly embrace that role where, at first he's like, okay, I can bend the rules a little bit too. Okay, I'm just going to be acting this way until the invasion. But by the end of the game, you're reaching a point where Jin may be past the point of return because he sees the folly of the samurai. He sees their weaknesses and how they're slaves to their own honor. And that's what got them killed in the first place. And that's the conflict he has with his uncle, Lord Shimura, who during the first act of the game is kidnapped, and Jin saves him. But, throughout the second act of the game, they're starting to come to odds and have differences in the way that they are wanting to tackle the Mongol invasion. And so it's just this awesome internal struggle that you go through, for Jin as a character.
Yeah, no, the character development in this game for Jin Sakai is stellar, and it's kind of heartbreaking, honestly, watching him be at odds with his uncle, because you see Lord Shimura as just this, like you said, a father figure, and it's really difficult to watch them go through that, because when you're playing through it the first time, you're like, well, how are we going to settle this? How are we supposed to figure this out?
Yeah.
So,
but Shimura is an unmovable stone, and Jin is the river. And Jin realizes that, or maybe he's the stick in the river that needs to go with the flow. He does his main thing, and I think this is foreshadowed very early on in the game, where Shimura asks him, what does honor mean to you? And Jin says, protecting people who can't protect themselves. And then Shimura kind of says, yes, that's true, but also, it's this. But what's interesting is that's what Jin took away from it. So what honor means to him is protecting the people of Tsushima at any cost. He's willing to sacrifice himself and his own code of honor and his own reputation in the way so that he can do what needs to be done. And there's kind of a there's definitely a question of how much of what Gene is doing is right. But ultimately, I kind of side with him. The samurai were definitely, an ideal, but that's what they are. It's an idealized thing. And that's why samurai didn't last. Gene realized that he had to use what tactics he needed to survive to get past the Mongols. And that's just such an awesome struggle that you see him go through. And Gene as a character can embrace either style of gameplay. Like we said before, that's, again, where we're saying how player choices impact gameplay. Gene goes along the same course of the story, but I can see where that idea took root. And so Gene ultimately kind of embraces, in both ways. And he can do a standoff, which is fun, and you can chain together, up to 5 different combos of slashing enemies through. Or you can cut enemies' throats in the back and slaughter Mongol leaders and scare the living bejesus out of them and activate the ghost dance, and they all start running away like fucking bitches. And you can really you remember in the Arkham games where the enemies start to get more scared, the more that you prey on them. You almost gets kind of a similar feel here. And Gene can Gene starts unlocking more of the ghost weapons like smoke bombs and kunai, and basically becomes a ninja. I mean, he's the typical samurai ninja, samurai by day, ninja by night sort of vibe going on here.
Yeah, and that's that. Excuse me. That's that connectivity I was talking about. I love it when you're able to take out enemies and the rest of them start to realize what's going on.
Yeah,
and they're like, "Oh shit, you're probably about to die," and I love that, because if they were just little NPCs walking around like little coded soldiers, not caring. I love it when it was like, "Hey, we got a body over here." Like in the Arkham games, like you're talking about, "Hey, someone's down, y'all get over here." That kind of stuff is really cool. And as games continue to come out, they're going to increase the smoothness of it. And I can't wait until it's like you're legitimately playing a movie. That would be awesome. Like
this game does feel like a movie. It has that Japanese cinema feel.
Well, yeah, you can literally play with that. What is it? Render, where there's
the Kurosawa mode.
Yeah,
where it literally feels like a Kurosawa film, like Seven Samurai. Have you ever seen that?
I have not.
Okay, so you know that ancient trope of the primitive village, that's the peaceful primitive village that doesn't know how to fight, and you've got the warrior who has to train them how to fight before some coming invasion?
Yeah.
That's
like
Seven Samurai. The Mandalorian. It's been in The Mandalorian. It's been in Star Wars The Clone Wars. That comes from Seven Samurai. So, and as everyone knows, Star Wars is based on Westerns, and Westerns are based on Kurosawa samurai films. It all dates back. And can you see the inspiration that this game takes?
Yes, like 100%. It's crazy. Have you played it at all in Kurosawa mode? Sorry for that clap right there. I was just getting kind of hype.
Just a little bit. I'd like to maybe try that at New Game Plus, like try playing most of the game. So what it is for anyone that's listening is it's this black and white filter that has kind of a grainy film texture to it that makes you feel like you're in a Kurosawa film.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
You could play this game in English, and the English dub is actually fantastic. I've listened to it, but as an anime fan, I actually played this game in the original Japanese with English subtitles.
Okay, so here's my thing. I'm the same way with anime. If I start playing a game or watching a show in one specific way, I can't change halfway through, because with this game, let me pull up my trusty notes here. Okay, so all right, so forgive me, everybody, if I butcher these names, but the English voice actor for Jin Sakai is Daisuke Suji. Japanese voice actor is Kazuya Nakai and Junya Hirano for young Jin. And they sound different. Like, the voices are different. And, of course, young Jin's going to be different. But let's be honest here. It's really difficult for me, personally, to start the game in English, and then I get curious about how the Japanese is, so I switch to Japanese, and every single voice actor is different. I don't like that.
Jin's voice is quite a bit different. His Japanese voice actor or seiyuu, Kazuya Nakai, is a much deeper voice than Daisuke Tsuji.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's kind of a common thing. A lot of oh gosh, I feel like I'm gonna I feel like I'm venturing into controversial territory, and I by no means mean any offense by this, but I feel like in Japanese culture, there's just a sense of higher tones in the way that the language is spoken. I've never really heard a person with a super deep voice speaking in Japanese. So I don't have that experience, but I've always felt like it's a lot more higher pitched. Like if you're a fan of Dragon Ball Z, Goku's English dub is very, very kind of manly, but and yes, I know that the Japanese voice actor is a woman, but it's a lot higher pitched.
It's because they used the same actress that did him as a child. I don't know why they didn't bother changing the actor. I mean, he's a man. The English dub had to have the sense to do that.
Honestly, the first
disrespect to the actress. I mean, she does a phenomenal job, but he sounds like a kid and he's an adult.
But no,
that's one anime I can't watch in Japanese because Goku's voice is just obnoxious as an adult. It just doesn't fit, and I'm sorry.
I'm guessing that when Dragon Ball first started, there might have been a lack of funds, and once it got super popular, everybody started loving it. So why change something that's going very well?
Yeah.
So. But it kind of comes with the territory.
Well, go look at, for instance, Naruto's voice actress, Junko Takeuchi.
Don't tell me what to do.
She does a phenomenal job of, and you can listen to Naruto's part 1 voice versus like his part 2 voice. And I can hear a 15 or 16-year-old versus a 12 or 13-year-old, or even when Naruto's an adult in the Boruto series, you know? So I just thought that was interesting. But Mel Flanagan in the American version kind of sounds alike the whole time. She does not as good at deepening her voice.
Yeah. God, now that I'm thinking about Naruto, I'm getting kind of triggered because I hate the Japanese version of Naruto.
Really?
Like, yes, I can't stand. Like, believe it, I don't like it.
You mean the English version?
No, the Japanese, like, not the English dub. I don't like the sub version. You
don't like the subbed version, but you just said believe it, which is the English dub catchphrase.
I was making a pun, Ash. Come on.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Believe it was just so hard. It's not even similar to Databayo, which is, you know, Databayo.
Yeah. Oh gosh. But we're kind of off on a tangent here. But One Punch Man, I can't watch it dubbed. I have to watch it subbed. I have to watch it in Japanese.
Yeah, Full Metal Alchemist is one of those series that I watch dubbed because I actually prefer the dub. Naruto, I can watch it both ways because Naruto's just my favorite, and I can honestly enjoy both versions. But I think the sub is better. But yeah, no, this game I had to watch in the original Japanese because I was like, hell yeah, there's a Japanese with English subtitles option. Okay, let me do it. But when I started another game, and I started a new game, not New Game Plus, but I started on a separate file, just a new game, because I heard that New Game Plus skips the beginning section.
Yeah.
So that's a nice way of wearing your glasses.
What, upside down?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of hurts my nose. I'm going to remove them right now. And fix that, actually. My nose started hurting really bad. I love how we were talking about Ghost of Tsushima and we just went on a whole anime tangent.
Hey, this is the episode to do it.
Yes, it is, 100%. And because let me gather my thoughts in English here because I can't do the sub version. No, I mean, I can't play the game in Japanese because Jin Sakai's voice is just, to me, it's perfect in English. You know, I started in English and I have to finish the game in English. And I'm on Act 3 now, and I've been playing English the whole way, so.
It's damn good. I mean, the characters, the actors that they chose actually, they either are actually, you know, Japanese natives, or they're very good at emulating the natural accent because they sound authentic. They're just hearing it in English. So you can honestly play the game both ways and get the same experience. But honestly, obviously, you're going to want to stick with one. I've played it both ways, and that's what I was going to say is my new game. I wanted to try to experience it in English this time. So I experienced just that beginning Komoda Beach storyline in English, and I'm impressed with it. I've watched some playthroughs as well. So I think the Japanese is still my preferred, but the game, I say English dub. It's not a dub because the game was originally recorded in English. If anything, the Japanese version is the dub, but but what's interesting is, and I noticed this when I'm playing the Japanese game, and I know a little bit of Japanese. I've been, you know, teaching myself over a few years. So
Todo es ka? You know what that means, right?
Ore wa is I. What else did you say?
Todo esca.
Todo esca?
I have to go to the bathroom, I think.
Oh, toire.
Toire?
Toire is toilet or bathroom. I'm trying to say have to go. Go is iku.
Hang on. Okay, now I gotta look this up. Okay. All right, we gotta do it. We gotta do it.
I'm learning a lot more recently, but I'm better with like the writing. Like I know katakana and hiragana and some kanji better than I've learned how to speak. But
Hang on.
化粧室はどこですか
doko is where.
I was very wrong. Okay.
化粧室はどこですか
Wait, it's coming from the top speaker. Hang on. I'm gonna play it one more time.
化粧室はどこですか
Doko desu ka is where is.
Keishoshitsu wa doko I can't speak Japanese. So I really apologize if I'm hurting somebody's feelings right now. That's not my intention whatsoever. I'm a South Georgia boy. And
I would say toire wa doko desu ka.
Toire wa doko desu ka?
Toire. I don't know. I might be butchering something there, but that's the way I would say it. Where is the bathroom? Anyway, on to whatever the hell we were talking about. What were we talking about? Well, we were talking about how the game sounds. Oh, so I was saying some of the eccentricities of the Japanese language are actually used in the Japanese version, and I think that's interesting. So some of the way that the character's dialect was written with the eccentricities of the Japanese language in mind. And I noticed that. And certain things would be actually translated differently in the subtitles than what I was hearing. Like a character would say, Lord Sakai, but the character would say in Japanese, Jin. Or the opposite. The subtitles would say Jin, but you would hear Sakai-sama. And so I was like, huh. So it's kind of weird. And there's some weird things, like you have Sensei Ishikawa, which in Japanese would be Ishikawa Sensei, Masako-sama, which would be Lady Masako.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was blocking a toxic person on Facebook. And we can keep this in because there was a horrible person that was very racist against me and my family. It was wonderful.
Dude, hell yeah. Block racists. Fuck racists.
Dude, yes. Dude, racism will not be tolerated.
It is not tolerated. Fascism is not tolerated on this podcast. Homophobia is not tolerated on this podcast. Transphobia is not tolerated on this podcast. General bigotry is not tolerated on this podcast. No sexism, misogyny, xenophobia.
Toleration is not tolerated on this podcast.
It's not. I will say I don't think we meet most politically correct standards. We're not PC, but we are gonna put an end to bigotry because that's
No, we're not PC. We're console, dude. What are you talking about?
exactly, we're console gamers.
My cat just ran into the room and ran into the wall, looked at me, and dipped. I guess she was trying to get my attention. I don't know.
Neko ga
Okay,
doko
sorry.
desu ka?
Yeah, she needs to go to the bathroom.
I was saying, where is the cat? But
Oh, yeah, I don't. Yeah, see, I just went back to the bathroom because I don't. See, this is why we're not politically correct on this podcast. 'Cause oh man, but it's fine. You know, eventually, I actually really want to learn Japanese, and this game had a huge anime, and this game, and just the sheer beauty of the Japanese language. Just I want to learn it. It's beautiful.
Zaku-kun.
Donde está biblioteca?
Okay, Zachary. I want to ask you a serious question, okay?
XM Satellite Radio?
All right. What horse color and horse name did you pick? And why was it the black horse named Kage?
What? You did this to me before we started recording, and I already forgot about this. But it was the black horse named Kage because it was cool. That was my favorite one.
Who didn't name their horse Kage and choose the black horse? I'm sorry. That is the natural choice.
I honestly wish that they kind of put something in where you could name it yourself. Because I would have named it SpongeBob.
Well, that's terrible. That's not historically accurate at all.
Exactly. It's hilarious. It's awesome. Either that or,
The amount of work that Sucker Punch went into making sure that even the kanji depicted was accurate to the timeline, and you're gonna name your horse SpongeBob. I'm ashamed.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not going to say that I want to ride the sponge because that's kind of...
There are some Easter eggs, though. There is, in fact, a hidden trophy in the game that actually has you dress up like Sly Cooper. There's a crooked Kama headband that has Sly's cane, and you actually have to put the right dye and everything. And that unlocks a trophy. And the best Easter egg that I found was a headband called Band of the Second Sun. And it's a red headband that looks like Delson's beanie from Infamous Second Son. And I even went into photo mode and zoomed in on the little label on it, and it does in fact say Shiatoru Ichi-san Hachi. So it says Seattle 138, which is the same thing and I looked it up, that Delson's beanie put on. So I just wanted to share that real quick because that Easter egg made me go, what? That's so cool. And I thought it was cool, and I even made sure to check that it said the same thing, which it did. So technically there's an anachronism for you. The katakana for Seattle is in the game, and Seattle wouldn't have existed yet. So there you go.
That is pretty cool. What if at some point during the game you could venture to Seattle?
It doesn't exist.
Just randomly. I know. That's the point. That's oh man, God. Oh, dude, is it bad that I have to poop really bad?
Oh, well, we're almost done here.
No. Like, there's no rush to finish. Like, I can feel the tortoise. I'm turtling a little bit.
Okay, so when it comes to like gameplay style, how did you like to play this game?
Okay. Well, I am, as you and I have discussed in previous podcast episodes, I love the Arkham series. And the best part of those games was taking out enemies without being detected whatsoever.
Yeah.
Same way with Spider-Man. Like, you can go balls to the wall, or you can just take them out one at a time.
So you're like me.
Yes, I love sneaking up behind enemies and assassinating them. But when you get spotted, I mean, if you're fighting in an area that has really tall grass, you can conceal yourself and go right back to it.
There are some areas where it was easier to just stand off before they noticed you, and yeah.
Yeah, but all in all, I'm a very, very huge proponent for stealth. I love taking enemies out cleanly and like quietly because it makes for easier progression. Now, don't get me wrong, I like a challenge, but the combat in this game, you have to spend a good amount of time before you get really good and really proficient with the combat. They did not make it easy, but they made it fluid.
Yes.
And that's what I really like. It's not easy to block and parry shots, like especially when you're fighting somebody that has a spear. You have to wait for that red point to flash before you can dodge out of the way and counter with a strike. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
It seems like such a simple action, but it's really hard just to dodge to the right or left and hit them with a strike. So for me, until I got really good at the combat, I was very, very much, okay, take them out one at a time, do the best you can, get some bow shots in there if you can, but it's really hard to keep track of arrows because you go through them pretty quickly.
Yeah,
they're hard to find. So, well, at least until the later portions of the game.
And then you get the blowpipe, which is also very Assassin's Creed-esque with the hallucination darts and the poison darts, but I like you, I'm mainly a stealth guy. I would try to take out most camps through stealth if I could. But there was a time and a place for open combat as well, and the open combat was fun. I found myself really looking forward to some of the combat in the game, and also the one-on-one samurai duels are just fucking cool.
Yeah. They're hard, but they're really
cool.
Hard.
You have to master the combat, and like you said, there's this block and parry system that it's not unique. We've seen it before, but it's implemented just so flawlessly in this game, so perfectly.
I would venture to disagree. Just on the fact that you said that it's really not unique. It is, because in a lot of games,
the concept isn't unique. The premise isn't. It's executed uniquely.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I concede. Yeah, because that concept of blocking and parrying is not new. But the way you do it in this game is really difficult. And it takes a lot of time. Like, you have to get good. Like, really good. Especially if you're playing on a harder difficulty, because enemies are more aggressive. They strike quicker. And they kill you in like 1 or 2 hits. Well, we can't say that enough.
Even late in the game, like you said, you can fuck up, and if you're playing lethal mode, yeah, especially, or harder difficulties, and if you miss that parry, I mean, you're fucked. You can heal yourself, which is good, and you can there's even an upgrade that you can use to heal yourself when you're down.
Mm-hmm. He beats on his chest.
What was this?
He isn't that what he does when you're trying to heal? He like beats his chest a little bit.
Yeah, he does. That's him gaining his resolve to push through the pain. So that's cool. You have the resolve, that slowly fills as you fight successfully. I also like how this game has 4 different stances that you unlock, throughout the at least the first half of the game. And
Water stance is my favorite.
Yeah, what's cool is that you've got, and then you can upgrade each of these and get more moves for each of these stances, and then you can upgrade your ghost weapons. And I mainly focused on, like stealth first, and then stances and combat stuff. But when it comes to open combat, is you have to be good at crowd control, and having to switch between the 4 different stances, which are strong against different types of characters, is kind of difficult to do in the heat of battle. But once you get into the flow of it, it's good. And so, here I'm going to fight against this stance, which is good against sword enemies. I'm going to go, which is stone stance, and then I'm going to switch to water stance for these enemies carrying shields. I'm going to switch to the wind stance for the enemies carrying spears, and the moon stance for the brutes.
Yeah. Dude, moon stance is dope. Okay. All of the stances are really fire, but I love the water stance. I love being able to just ruin someone that has a shield. It's so good.
Yeah. Oh, you can ruin those one-on-one Mongol fights that are one-on-one duels. Just brutally murder them with that water stance.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah. This game is really good at differing between the stances. Like, learning the combat is hard, but you have to learn the combat 4 times because it's different for every single stance.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that makes this game well worth $60 because there's so much to learn, so much to see, and that adds to the replayability, because while it is sort of a linear story, you can go anywhere at any time. You and your horse can follow the wind and just go wherever you want to go. That's another really cool thing, following the wind in this game.
Now, the other thing that was really cool about this game, of course, and what we talked about is just the full immersion into feudal Japan. So this takes place into the real-world historical event, the Mongol invasion of Tsushima in 1274. And apparently this is the setting that Sucker Punch kept coming back to. And they wanted to tell the story of a samurai warrior, and that's where everything just, according to Sucker Punch, is where the entire vision clicked into place. And what they were trying to do was transport people to feudal era Tsushima, but in order to be, culturally sensitive, they did actually end up, like I said before, replacing some of the characters. So all of the characters in the game are fictional characters, but the events are real, and the story is very grounded in reality.
Yeah, and that's the best way they could have gone about it, because honestly, if they had made like 1 or 2 small mistakes, they would have gotten into some PR nightmares.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. They had balls making this game, and they did a fantastic job. It's like, instead of dipping them in acid, they dipped their balls in honey. They did a good job. They did a good job.
And, the biggest historical inaccuracy, so to speak, is just the fact that you write haikus in the game, which is cool, but technically an anachronism. And apparently in the Japanese version, the haikus were replaced with wakas, which is a different type of poetry that's just not as well known. So, and not as well known in the real world. So for the rest of the world, it was still haiku, but in the Japanese localization, they changed it to waka so that Japanese people would not break out of the immersion, being more culturally aware of their own history. But
yeah.
But the haikus are cool. You sit down and you compose a fucking haiku.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
The grass is green. The sky is clear. I really want to take some acid.
No, the grass is green. I just isn't it 575? Isn't that a haiku? So
Something
the
like
grass
that.
is green. I just farted and it smells. Get me out of here. There you go.
What is that classic haiku that's like, haikus are really hard. I hate them. Something. Refrigerator.
Oh,
Haikus are fun, but sometimes they make no sense. Refrigerator.
yeah. So haikus are fun. No. Haikus, no, because it's 5 syllables.
It's
7
5,
syllables.
yeah.
Haikus can be fun.
Haikus can be fun.
But sometimes they make no sense. Refrigerator. Yeah, that's it. Oh, man.
Yeah.
See, and what I like about this is that this is just part 1. We still have so much crap to talk about. And I'm excited because I'm still working on this game. And so there's still some stuff I haven't seen yet. And once we kind of wrap up here, I'm going to dive back into it. You know, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, you should. I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up here because we're hitting at over an hour. But next time we'll get into the more of the story, in particular the end, and how your choices throughout the game might reflect what choice you'll make at the end, because there is actually a choice that you have to make at the end of the game, and I'm really interested to hear what you pick because it's a hard choice and why. And then I'll tell you what I did and why.
All right, I'm down for it.
But we'll talk about that. We'll hit up more of the gameplay, and we'll also be talking about the DLC, the Legends mode, and talking about where this game could go in the future, or what we could see in a sequel.
Yeah, dude. Oh man. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing the end of the game because honestly, the end of video games are what make or break them for me. Like Skyward Sword, it was an amazing game, but the final boss, while it's in one of the coolest settings ever, it's really easy and it made me kind of sad. But the story and the way it makes you feel just kind of surpassed that for me. That's why I love it.
That's not invalid, man. We can definitely talk about that. We'll talk about graphics and just how this game plays and feels overall, how it was executed and how it was received. So stay tuned for that next time. We'll be releasing that within, well, I was going to say normally it would be 2 weeks, but we're kind of a week on this, late on this. So that'll probably be the next week after we release this. And
Ash and I will probably finish up this in a couple days and get this rolling out to you guys as soon as possible because those of you who like to listen, we really appreciate you. And we don't really talk about this that much, but or at least we haven't when you and I have been doing this stuff. But the people that actually take the time to listen to these episodes, thank you so much. Like, it means the world to us because it's a blast to sit down and talk to a good friend about video games. That's always been something I've wanted to do. But when people listen to it and, give us good feedback and enjoy the content that they hear, that makes it all the more worth it. And so for those of you that have stuck with us and still continue to enjoy the content that we're putting out, we love you. Thank you very much, and we hope that you continue to stay with us throughout this journey because Collateral Gaming is really just beginning. And we have an I feel like we have an amazing future ahead of us, and I'm so excited to see where it goes.
Fuck yeah. Well, we'll see you guys next time. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or feedback on your platform of choice. Go check us out on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And go check out our Patreon, where we're going to be releasing full-length video game Let's Play commentaries. I'd love to do a Let's Play on this game, by the way.
Yeah, dude, 100%. I'm actually probably, I wanted to tell you this. I can kind of break this out, this little surprise that I've been kind of keeping on the podcast. I'm probably about 3 months out from having the proper equipment that I need to actually start streaming and for you and I to actually get together and do our Let's Plays. So we can start rolling those out quick come summertime, and that's really exciting.
Hell yeah, dude, I'm ready. And we can really just crank those out during the break in between seasons and get ready. And dude, be ready for next season, because I know that we're still like early into this season, but stay tuned for some of the stuff, because I'm already thinking about what I want to do next. I'm excited to see what kind of games you're going to bring to the table, and we're excited about the rest of the season too. We've got a lot of fun games to talk about, but first we're going to finish talking about Ghost of Tsushima, because we have so much more to tell. So we'll see you on the flip side, guys.
Dab it out.
Collateral Gaming is an L Company production. All music and game clips are owned by their respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.